Hello everyone, my name is Matt, and today we're going to be reading a small section of The Jockey and Her Horse by Sarah Maslin and Raymond White Jr. With every pail full of oats and the horses crunching happily in the barn below, Cheryl climbed the sawdusty ladder up to the loft. It was peaceful, and sometimes she would take a break up there. She would count the hundreds of rays of slanting light that slipped through cracks in the timber framing, the dust sparking through them, and multiply them as if they were tally sticks. Today, hay was piled to the roof. A new shipment had been stacked the night before, and she began to count the hay bales and multiply them, getting lost in numbers and the cheeps of the cardinals who nested among the bales. Then she heard it. It wasn't the chirp of her state's beloved bird, the little song that flitted around the farm and was such a part of Raymond White racing stables that her father's jockeys wore silks of red, cardinal red, as they rode. It was a bird's cry of pain. Worried, Cheryl cast about among the bales, looking high in the eaves of the hayloft and low through the cracks in the floor for the distressed bird. Then she spotted it. Halfway to the ceiling, in a tower of bales just beside the trap door, was a blur of red fluttering, a cardinal. Its wing pinioned between two massive bales of alfalfa, must have been caught flying across the loft as the workmen flung the heavy loads of hay into the stacks. Quick as a filly out of the gate, Cheryl raced to the rescue. She hooked her fingers into the twine that wrapped each bale and climbed up the tower of hay to where the precious little bird was flitting and cheeping so helplessly. When she got to it ever so gently so as not to crush the creature, she pried up the bale on top and then pushed it slightly back, freeing the wing. In that instant, the wisp of a bird looked deep into Cheryl's eyes with its own black beads. Cheryl felt an unspoken thank you just before the bird flew away unharmed. Then the tower of hay toppled. Cheryl was falling, tumbling, bracing to hit the slatted hayloft floor and surely get the wind knocked out of her. But she did not, because right below her was that trap door. And right below that trap door was Jetalara. She landed on his back with a thud, his withers slamming into her chest. The breath disappeared from her lungs, and she reached almost instinctively to wrap her arms around his neck. To the thoroughbred beneath her, whatever had just landed on his back did so just as a coyote would have, clamping onto his shoulders and, he thought wildly, trying to make a snack of him. And so Jetalara did what his cells and sinews and bones and breath had for generations told him would bring him to safety. He ran. The chestnut galloped out of the barn with Cheryl clinging to his back, still unable to catch her breath. He flew down the pasture, his hooves trampling Drew's baseball diamond. He blasted past the buckeye tree and alongside the Grand River, outpaced the current with every bounding leap. When he hit the track on which Cheryl's great-great-grandfather had ridden horses and every man in the White family since him had too, he did what thoroughbreds do best. Jetalara raced. Cheryl was gasping now, braiding her fingers into the rust-red mane, hugging her strong legs around him. He was going too fast to risk falling off, and becoming aware of shouts coming from the family farmhouse. Her father screaming, "Stop! Oh, dear Lord, Doris Jean, it's Cheryl! And Jetalara, stop!" Without a bridle or a saddle, Cheryl could no more stop the careening thoroughbred than she could stop a cardinal from singing. But as her breath steadied and the warm back of the animal plunged and coiled beneath her, she realized she did not want to stop. She was a jockey at last. All that careful study of her father's riders meant she knew just what to do. As Jetto ran wild, she mimicked their position. She pushed her chest up from his withers and squared over her shoulders, tucked up her legs, and shoved her heels down. As he sped down the furlongs, she shifted her seat to the center of his back and in a steady voice said, "Jetalara, it's me, Cheryl." The fear in the horse's chest parted like clouds at the sound of his girl's voice. The visions of a bobcat or any other type of danger melted away, and he steadied his canter. Then he bounced to an easy trot. Then Jetalara stopped, turned back to look at his rider, and plainly begged her for some oats. Huffing and sweating, her father arrived at the paddock's edge, her mother swift behind him, their faces stricken with worry. Cheryl dismounted. Jedalaura followed her to them without so much as a lead rope, like a puppy, as she explained what had happened. Then she startled her mother and father, perhaps herself most of all, with what she said next. "Papa, I love myself, and I'm going to be a jockey." She reached up to scratch Jedalaura's long white stripe. "In fact, I already am." Thank you all so much for tuning in to today's story time with Horse Buddies. If you're interested in hearing how Cheryl's story ends, The Jockey and Her Horse is available in the museum gift shop for purchase.